Okay, so I've had requests for how I do my new sword tech, and so I am doing an instructional video today. All you'll need is your blue camp pad, just your standard blue camp pad. A lot of Amtgards make shields out of it. It's fairly stiff and durable. You need a sharp knife to cut it with. I use a golf club shaft, but you can use any cord you so desire. And saw to cut it to length. You can use hockey tape and electrical tape today, and a penny to cap the end of the core, a pen to mark on the foam, and some Gorilla Glue. The original formula is an expanding foam type thing when it dries, so that way it takes up all the space between your core and your foam, so that way it doesn't rattle around. You need a heat gun. Not actually sure how hot you need your heat gun to be to melt the blue foam. I'm told that this one's actually rated to 800 degrees, and tape measure to mark everything with. Today, the weapon I'm making is one someone ordered, and it needs to, they wanted dual 32-inch long weapons. And so I've got a golf club shaft. I've already lopped the head off, but I haven't cut it to length. There's going to be 1 inch of foam on the end for the pommel and 2 inches on the foam on the tip. So to take that into consideration, we're cutting it to length. 32 minus 3 is 29, and so this is 29. I've already marked it there, so cut that real fast. 29 inches. Last little bit's always the hardest. So 29-inch core. Then build up the tip of the core with some electrical tape in order to make a wider base for the penny. And wrap it a fair few times. Get it just shy of how wide the penny is. It's not quite as wide as a penny, but is fairly close, and that's all we need. So I'm going to use electrical tape again to tape penny down. We're going to do that in 2 directions, 90 degrees from each other. Go around with the electrical tape again to keep it from slipping out. Then go over the top of it with the hockey tape for security, because Hockey tape doesn't stretch like electrical tape does. Don't want that penny coming loose inside of the weapon. It's a great way to accidentally have your tip stab out from the inside, hurt somebody. Select tape around again, just like we did with electrical tape. Adds a little bit of weight in the end, but puts a little bit of weight for a lot of safety. Okay, set that aside for now. Already pre-cut the foam strips that we're going to use, but each section is 2.5 inches wide, and so when you mark it out, it's right there at 2.5, 5, and 7.5. This one is 21.5 inches long, so that when it's put on the weapon, it'll have maximum length on the handle, which is a request from the person who ordered it. And then there is a 1/4 inch channel cut out of one of the 3 that is in the center, and so that's at 1 1/8 and 1 3/8 for each side of that. And so you have one side, the other side, in the middle with the strip cut out so that the core can fit in there. Now you're like, hey, there's that big lump on your core, and it'll just form around that, no problem. The reason why I had it only be a 1/4 inch gap all the way along is because that's the thinnest point of the core I'm using, and when we're done we'll trim up the edges flush with the front and the back, so that way it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, so then how we assemble it in the long run is we take the first piece and our middle piece, and we lay them on top of each other, so that way they're both same, flush on the end, flush on the sides. And we lift up the tip and take our heat gun, let that warm up a bit, and we heat up the foam, and it will literally melt the foam on the surface, so that way when you press it together and let it cool, it will form a bond that is just as strong, if not stronger, than any chemical bond from glue. You can just heat up the edges and probably move it a bit fast for a camera woman, but such is life. And so that way we just do the tip first, so that way we can align the core perfectly and get a nice weapon. And we slip the core inside between the 2 pieces. Have it run straight down the center of a bottom piece, and do one side at a time. And we'll just heat up foam all the way down. Careful not to touch the heat gun to the foam. Double check our work, make sure we have good bondage. And we'll do, got the other side a little hot. We'll do this side now. Making sure to keep it tight. So now we have half of our sword bound together. I don't know how visible it was on the video, but I actually went a little slow and it started smoking through here. Oops. Slip our core out real fast. We get this nice little groove, and we'll hopefully our glue is warmed up enough because it was being rather slow earlier, and we'll apply a bead of glue down the center. Might be a little much, but my feeling is better a little bit too much than too little. Have your sword break down prematurely, and then we'll slip the core back in there. We won't spin it just yet. Once we get the other piece of foam on there, then we'll spin it around to transfer the glue throughout the whole section. And we'll take the next piece out the other side, and again we'll line it up. Do the tip first, so that way we make sure everything's lined up. And as you're heating it up, the foam actually discolors on the surface and turns yellow and bubbles up, and that's when you know it's ready to press in to apply to hold itself. You don't want to get it too hot, it turns to like a jello-y substance then. But you don't want it too cold, because then it won't tear right. The better is actually slightly too hot, because the jelliness goes away once it cools down, whereas if it doesn't bond, it's kind of just not bonded. Run up the sides. Make sure everything is well bonded. Beware when you're using a heat gun, because it is really hot. Like I said, 800 degrees. My fingers got a little toasty there. As you see, the amount that's actually sticking out the sides is very minimal. We can take our knife and shave it. The knife's got a little dull, unfortunately. And the jagged edge isn't too much to worry about, because we'll go over it again with the heat gun, and it'll smooth it out. To put the glue all the way through, make sure the glue's everywhere, run the heat gun over it again, watch all those rough edges go away. Works well on the edges and the tip. Hot there. And then we can mark off the tip for notching 45-degree cuts out of it, so that way we'll have a slightly, but not quite, rounded edge to it. 3/4 of an inch on either side. The cutting board is nice, that way you can just cut straight through without having to worry about damaging your work surface. Clean up those edges. At this point, you can tape your core to your sword. So I can apply some tape here. It'll also help to prevent glue from oozing out, which it will do eventually due to the fact that it is a expanding foam. You make your pommels however you want. I'd recommend taking a cheap box tape, like the dollar stuff you get from Walmart that's really thin, and putting a few layers on the tip and then wrapping gently in a spiral in both directions all the way down to prevent any worries of the layers from separating. But you can finish it how you want, and then put your cloth cover on, and you have a really, really light weapon. Like the balance point is right about there without the pommel on, and that's how we do it.